talk about a Python module that you could use every week. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the login module, which allows you to properly report error messages in your code, both in development and in production. So if you have been using print statement all this while, then it is a time for you to level up. So first thing first, why should you stop using the print statement and start using the login module? Well, using the print statement do not allow you to properly classify your error messages or your notification, but you could easily do that with the login by clearly stating whether it is just a debug message or an information or a warning, an error, or even a critical issue happening within your code. Another reason why you should use the login module is because in production you would not have access to the print statement, so you would mostly be using the login module, yes, to log your error messages to the console in production, and you'll be able to see what is happening in your server. And of course, it is the industry standard, so you don't want to be left out. And to get started, the login module is a built-in Python module, so we do not have to do any installation. All we need to do is to import login, and this is the first thing first. So secondly, we have to do some setups, set the level of the login messages that will be reporting, whether we are like just debugging, or we are in production, or we are just showing some warnings and stuff like that. So I am going to say login.basic config, and then I'll pass some parameters to the basic configs. I'm going to set the level, and for my level I'm going to say login.debug, which is like the basic. Okay, so when you set your level to debug, it's going to report every message from debugging to information to warning to error and to even critical issues that are happening within the code base. So this level is something you could use to control which login message would be reported depending on your environment. So if I am in my development environment, I would use the login and set it to debug, so all messages are going to be reported. But if I am going to production, I would most likely set the login level to information, so that it's going to return or report everything starting from information and going upward. Anything debugging message is not going to be reported. It can be info, or it can even be like warning, or you can set it to error if you want to report error, or you can set it to critical. So depending on the level of message that you want the login to report. So I'm going to return it back to debug, and with that we can now start reporting our error messages. I'm going to start with like a login.debug. Sorry, expect me to give it a message. So let's say a debug message from login. Then we can use login.info. So depending on the message we're trying to pass, what am I spelling? Good. So we can tell, we can clearly distinguish between the different informations we are trying to send. So I can say an info message from login. So this is an info message. That's not all. We can have like login.warning. Missing some words, kind of like hard to type and write at the same time, so we can say login.warning, like a warning message. So okay, from login we have like two more to go. So login.error, so this is like when an error happens. And finally, this is when things get really bad and it's kind of like critical, then you can add like a critical error message, and of course from login. So let's quickly go through these lines. First, we did some configuration and set the level from which our messages are going to start reporting. Anything from debug going upward would be reported, and here we clearly put the login message that would be shown depending on what is happening. This is for normal debugging, mostly when we're in development. and this is information probably to tell that something is working fine. For example, a user logs in successfully, and warning is as when something is not so fine, but it's not so serious. We just want to be aware, okay, that something is happening. And error is when things start to get really bad and something has gone wrong. And finally, critical is when things have really gotten out of hand, maybe a crash or something, so you can easily report. Now, running that, you can see that we have this output here. This is from the debug message right here. This is info, this is warning, this is error, and this is critical. So the login module clearly explains or clearly tell you from where this message is coming and what is happening behind the scene from how you arrange it. And of course, you could tweak your basic configuration further by setting like a file name in case you want the error messages to be logged into a file. So I could say like let's say app.logs. So if I am using a file name, it means when I run this program, the result is going to be stored in a file for me. And if I should go out of this, I could open up the file and then see the log messages that have been reported. But in this case, I do not need to have the file name right there, so I'm just going to leave it like that. You could also add another parameter, which is like format, where you could specify and make the error message looks much more detailed, where you can include like the time, the name of the error, like the level, and then the message all to be shown. And then let me also use this and set it to info, so any message that is coming that is not from info and above is not going to be triggered. I'm going to run this now, and you can see that we no longer have the debug, we only have info, warning, error, and critical being shown. So with this, let's have like a real life example where we could use login to properly display error messages depending on what is happening in our code. So I have this very simple illustration of an authentication function where we have a pre-saved username, admin. I'm going to change this to make it very short. So let's see, admin with a password of 123, user also with a password of like 1234. And this function is expecting like two parameters, username and password. We try to check if the username is correct, and then we log in an info message and say login successful. Else we can say like a warning and we see that a login has failed. So at this point we have set our basic configuration. We have set a file name where we can log our error message. For the sake of this tutorial, I will not be using the file name. And then we've set our level to start reporting from login.info. And of course, we have a format which is going to first of all record the time which this login message is generated. This is very good for auditing and also tracking when an activity was carried out in your server or in your application. And then we have the level name, which tells whether it's an information, an error, or maybe a warning. Then we finally have the message. So let me go ahead and execute this function. Authenticate the user. I'm going to try admin, and I am going to give it a correct password 1234. So I'm going to run this. Okay, and yeah, so there you go. We have some issues here with our file name, so I'm going to take that out. Pistorent we run now, and then it says we have a warning that our login attempt failed. Why did it fail? Well, our password is not correct, so 1234 instead of 123. But at least we have a well-detailed error message, the time that this error message was generated and the date. It's a warning, and then we finally get the information. Now we try with the correct information. We're no longer going to get a warning, but an info that says login successful. And with this, we come to the end of today's episode of using login to properly report your error message. Let me know what you think about using this Python module to report your error messages. And also, if you have another alternative to error message reporting, or maybe there's a module you want me to make a video about, you can leave it in the comment section. Ensure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.